Hi, I'm Ross from Crimsmith Property Accountants. I'm just going to go through the simple maths about interest rates. So obviously we don't have a crystal ball. No one has a crystal ball. No one ever gets interest rates, right? It's really hard what's going to come up over the next 1, 2, 3, 5 years or longer. But what we can do is we can work through some of the maths. So I'm going to share my screen and just go through the simple maths. So what I generally start with is interest.co.nz, click on the borrowing tab and see what interest rates are. I've used BNZ rates today, so nice and easy. They have all the different terms in here, going from 1 year 6.74, 2 years 6.49, 5.99 for 4 years, or 6.29. So yeah, what we look at to start with is what sort of things can we do. So if we start with 1 year compared with 2 year. So obviously from interest.co.nz, 2-year rate was 6.49%. The average per year is 6.49%. That's pretty easy. So say at the moment, interest rate 1 year, standard BNZ is 6.74%. It's 0.25% down. So if we go 0.25%, or if we go 6.49 minus 0.25%, so 6.49 minus the 0.25%, we get 6.24%. That would be the interest rate that the second year would have to be for us to balance out. So that means that we're still averaging that 6.49% for the 2-year period. So obviously, if you think it's going to go below 6.24%, and you think it's going to be a lower interest rate, like 5.5, for example, then you would be better off fixing for 1 year for 6.74, fixing for the second year at your 5.5. Obviously, you're guessing, and you don't have a crystal ball either, the same as me. That would give you an average interest rate 6.12%. Obviously, you're running the risk that it goes up rather than down, but that would be what would happen. So 6.24%, it balances out. You're paying the same 6.49% over the 2 years, or average per year. If you think that's going to go higher, so maybe you think it's going to go up to 7%, then obviously your average interest rate for those 2 years would be 6.87. You'd be better off fixing for 2 years. So to summarize that, basically, if you think the next year's 1 year rate is going to be 6.24% or above, you're better fixing for 2 years. If you think it's going to be below that, then you're better off doing the 1 year, as long as you have the income and ready to take that risk. 3 years is a bit harder because you've got more years. But what I would generally look at that is if we put the same rate, basically 5.99%, you've got the BNZ is 5.99% for 3 years. So let's say 6.74 now, then down to 5.99 for our second year. For our third year, for it to break even, it would need to go down by 0.75. So what's that, 5.24, something like that? So basically, we'd need to go 6.74%, 5.99%, 5.24%. That gives us the same average, 5.99% over the 3 years. To work that out, I did the same for the middle one as a bit of a cheat. And then the third year, I did the 5.99 minus 0.75, the gap between the first year, and that gave us the same rate. So basically, if you're thinking that these interest rates, again, if you think that they're going to be below that, if you think the 2 years is going to be below, you think the 3 year, the third year, if your one term is going to be below, you'd be better off running the 1 year rate and hoping to get lower. If you think the interest rates in 1 year's time and 2 years' time are going to be higher than that, then you'd be better off fixing for 3 years. If we're having a little bit of a glance between the two, yeah, obviously these ones, there's only a small gap. It's going down, 0.5%, or our second year, 6.24%. For the 3 year, we've got to go down 0.75 or down to 5.99%. So when you're sort of looking at these rates, the 3 year looks slightly more attractive because it's got more of a discount on the current rate. But obviously you're going a longer period, so there's a lot more guessing games. it's really hard to know. Like you go back 3 years and see how much interest rates have changed, it's really hard to know what will happen. If we look at the 5-year rate, it's longer still, and it's really hard to estimate that far along what is going to happen. It's only obviously a tiny discount on the 6.74. It's only 0.45% down. So you're not really getting a really good rate long term. The thing you are getting is long-term stability. So if you're on a fixed income, you need long-term stability. Yeah, it can be a good idea for you. For the more aggressive people, you're sort of looking at maybe not getting a huge discount. So 0.45. So if we split that into the first 2 years and the next 2 years, we would be looking at about half of it. So if we went 0.23, being about half that difference, effectively for us to work out the same over 5 years, it would have to go from 6.74 to 6.51 to 6.28 to 6.05 to 5.82. That's a 6.28% average over those 5 years, pretty close to the 6.29. So what that means, if you think interest rates are going to go a lot slower down than that, so yeah, maybe you think they're going to stay up or be higher than that, then you'd fix for 5 years. If you think they're going to go down lower than that, then you'd fix 1 year at a time. Obviously, you're taking more risk and would see what happens. So I'll just make sure they're all left where they were. Yep. So yeah, overall, just worth working through those maths, worth looking through them. What is for a 2 year, what is the 1 year and then the second 1 year rate to give you that same rate, and then comparing with what you think has happened. So that part that I'm showing you now shows the same interest rates, but yeah, to get a fixed 5-year rate, what it takes 1 year by time. The same for 2 years, 6.49. What's it take year after year? And the same for 3 years, what you'd need to get. So that gives you some really good information so you can have a think about what you think interest rates are going to do. And then it sort of gives you an answer which is the best one on it. Obviously, you can split. You could split your loans up into 2 or 3 parts. Biggest tip with that is just make sure you don't have a huge amount floating. Obviously, that's a lot higher interest rate. So if we drag back in our interest.co.nz, BNZ floating 8.14. That's obviously a lot higher than the 6.74 for 1 year. So be careful, don't have too much floating, and yeah, potentially split up. So yeah, there's no right or wrong answer from this. It depends on what you're sort of after. So yeah, hopefully that's been helpful. If you want to have a chat about mortgages, I'll put up our free chat link a bit later on. And yeah, it can be a good idea just to have our chat to some of our mortgage advisors, some of our financial planners at Lifetime, and they can chat through what some of those different options are. There's so many different things you can do out there, and yeah, so many different options, which might be, for example, just borrowing a little bit more to give you a buffer can be a really great idea. Cool. Thanks a lot for your time and hope you enjoy that. Bye.